On this week's episode, I'm joined by Dr. Amanda Foo-Ryland, originally from New Zealand, but has had a home in Portugal and a heart in Portugal since 1999. Amanda is an award-winning TEDx speaker, a best-selling author, an expert in resilience, leadership, business well-being, and Amanda is an NLP trainer. We discuss, amongst other things, some of Amanda's story and how Portugal has helped her cope and get past some big curveballs that life has thrown at her and her family, what she loves about living in Portugal, the people, the food, the weather, and how it's such an amazing place to raise her two young boys. We also speak about how for Amanda, coming home to Portugal rejuvenates and refreshes her after traveling, speaking, and doing all the things that she does with her business. For those of you listening, head over to our YouTube channel to watch some of this episode. And for those of you watching, click down below and subscribe. And for the full podcast episode, head over to Google, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And now over to my conversation with Amanda. Welcome back, or welcome to another episode of Portugal, The Simple Life. And I'm delighted to be joined here by Amanda Foo-Ryland. Amanda, good morning, bon dia. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Bon dia. Bon dia. Yeah, I'm down here in the Algarve and it's another beautiful day in paradise.
As normal. Amanda, why don't you start off telling us a little bit about you?
Well, I just turned 56 and I became a mum at the age of 52 of twin boys. So that was a bit later in life. And we split our time. We used to split our time between Portugal and New Zealand.
Okay.
So I run my own business. Basically, as long as I'm wireless, I can work, which is fantastic. And then we got stuck in New Zealand for 2 years with COVID, which was not a bad place to be stuck, I have to say, but it's a long, long way from Portugal and from the UK, which is where most of our family live. So the time difference was just really hard. So we find ourselves back in Portugal, loving the life.
I wonder if you've had the same experience that I've had when I moved to Portugal 14 years ago. And at that time, it wasn't fashionable. Like Portugal wasn't on all of the best of lists, and it wasn't, on all of these Forbes and National Geographic. It was quite an unknown quantity. And I had a lot of people that said, well, why on earth would you move to Portugal? Why Portugal? And then when they come to visit, within like 2 days, they're okay. I understand now. I understand.
Yeah.
Do you have the same experience when you have people visiting?
Yes, because we split our time between New Zealand and Portugal. We have a lot of people that come from, the Southern Hemisphere. So to them, Europe it's Europe. Yeah. They don't really understand Europe, I suppose. And so, they have a hit list, and generally they come to Portugal just because they're coming to see us. It's not because they've hand selected. Now, although I've noticed a change since COVID, but before that, people were just coming to see us. They just thought it was kind of a country bolted onto the end of Spain and was very much like Spain's poor relative. But when they've got here, they've just been blown away by the cultural differences, the food, the people, the countryside, the climate, all the things that we love.
Amanda, you also had your own health issues before your late husband, correct? You had similar problems.
Yeah, so I just cycled. I do a lot of work for charity.
Okay.
And so I raise a lot of money and I do some crazy things. In fact, one of the things that I did, and I was with with Keith, and I'd run the London Marathon, Madrid Marathon, and the New York Marathon. And Keith was with me coming back from the New York Marathon back to Portugal. And he said, why do we have to keep flying around the world for you to run marathons? Why can't you just run a marathon in Portugal? Well, back then, there weren't very many marathons. There were a lot of half marathons, but there wasn't very many full distance. True. And if there were full distance, you had to be kind of elite, which I'm not. I'm just a plodder, really. And Keith said to me, I explained there aren't full distance marathons, love. And he said, well, why don't you just run across the country then? Wow. And as a joke, and I said, that's a really good idea. So in 2008, I actually ran from the Guadiana River to Sagres, which is a marathon a day for 7 days, back to back.
Why Portugal? How did that all start for you guys?
And so, yeah, when we sort of spent a little bit of time here, more in a holidays mode. And then as we realized that we really loved it, we sold up in the UK, and then we bought some land and we built. We built a lovely villa overlooking the ocean, which was
That's
just
beautiful.
beautiful. I think one of my fears when I first started to come here was I said to Keith, I've got to find some runners. I've got to find like-minded people. I literally went out and found runners by going to runs, and we've got this lovely, we've been doing it for 20 years now. We meet on a Thursday and a Sunday. I'm not always there because I work away quite a bit. I have to fly to the UK quite a bit. But yeah, these runners are now in the 70s, and they can blooming run me into the ground. I'll tell you, the fit as fiddles.
But I also found, again, not necessary to speak English, Portuguese here, but you experience some other elements of the culture and the dynamics, and when you can understand, when you can hold a conversation, and it makes the experience even more beautiful. Was that the same experience for you?
And we just find the Portuguese people so lovely. Like, and we'll take off in Portuguese, and then we generally start smiling because we're always saying, you falo muito mal Portuguese, un pouco Portuguese, but already heading up that we speak bad and only a little bit. And everybody speaks English. Yeah. So we find that they do help us. And if we say to them, look, we only want to speak in Portuguese, can we just speak in Portuguese? They'll sort of smile and do that, but the conversation's over very quickly because we don't have an extensive vocabulary.
But that's another in that you guys have got in terms of engaging and integrating is children, because there is this care and this love, and everything is about the kids in this country, and that you must see that as another way where you all of a sudden, just because you've got two kids, are automatically part of the community because of them. With the parties and everything like that as well.
We are absolutely in the right place, in the right country for our little boys. And the school, we have regular meetings with the school. That's the teacher and another lady called Mary Joao that offers support for Noah. And we go for these meetings, and it's 90 minutes. This is not a quick 15-minute catch up with the teacher. It's 90 minutes that we sit with these beautiful ladies that just adore children, that love them, that they know what they need. And we've had our fourth meeting with them, and every meeting we end up in tears, either because we're sad about something or because we're rejoicing about something. And this is including, not just me and Sarah, Mary Joao and Marita are both, because they just love children. There's a passion that I haven't really witnessed elsewhere, although this is the first time I've had little ones. My little sister's a teacher in the UK, and she's very passionate. And I think that's unusual in the UK. But here it's just kind of like a given. And, we might be in the supermarket with the boys, and the Portuguese just want to engage with kids. They just love children.
Yeah. How does being here in Portugal help you rejuvenate, refresh, rest, and just get your own fulfillment? How does being in Portugal help you with that?
Well, I think for us, we've got a little puppy dog, and if the boys don't wake us up at 6, Rupert the puppy dog, he's only 4 months old. He comes and wakes us up, and the first thing I do is open the French windows in the bedroom and just leave them wide open, and I can hear all the birds, and then I open the other windows, and I think the weather is one thing, and then the smells around your garden, the plants, the eucalyptus, the orange blossom. It's just I think Portugal's got a specific smell, and when I land in Faro Airport, I'm like, I'm home. I can't really describe it. It's a mixture of kind of pine and sweetness. It's unique. So it's a fully sensory experience, I find. It's the sound of the nature, it's the smell of the nature, it's the light early in the morning. It's that's a great way to start your day.
what do you think the world should know? What do you want people to know about the Portuguese? Because like we've said so many times, that just in this episode, they make this country what it is. They make this country special.
Yeah, they do. I think you mentioned it earlier. There is a curiosity. There's a curiosity to know about you. So, you know, I've quite often fly up to Lisbon, and I use Lisbon as a hub. So I've recently just come back from Dallas. I was speaking there, and I've recently come back from Tokyo. So I've been up to Lisbon a lot, and I love Lisbon. In fact, we've just invested up there. We've just bought an apartment up there.
Wonderful.
It's my favorite city. It's my favorite city, including, you know, globally, it's my favorite city. And so there we are in a city. We're in the capital of Portugal. I'm on my own. It's a city mentality because people are living in the city, and yet everyone's got time to ask. You know, waiters, taxi drivers, where are you from? They're delighted when I say I live here. You know, delighted. How long have you lived here? It's a curious discussion. So I think it's a curiosity and a serving mentality that I will do the very best I can for you.
Amanda, how has Portugal changed you?
How has it changed me? That's a really good question. So I think it's changed me in that I probably live life a little bit slower, even though we've got twins and we run our own business. But just taking time out and lying on a sun lounger and reading a book, you know, under an olive tree. How lovely. Whereas, I wouldn't do that in the UK. Or even in New Zealand. It's just too fast. Everything's too fast. So I think it's probably slowed me down. I want to be there on the beach with my boys or in the park, enjoying them really. So that's been a big change because I was very career orientated. I love it. I love what I do. There's no two ways about it. But just reassessing how I'm spending my time.
Yeah.
And Portugal's a big part of that.
Amanda, I've loved this conversation. I have one more question for you, and it's a question we ask all of our guests. Portugal, the simple life, why?
I think it's like going back in time. We live quite rurally, and our drive to school, you know, we pass the orange blossom. We all open our windows so we can smell it. We'll quite often pass the shepherd with his goats.
I love that. I love that part of the day.
If I'm out running early in the morning, there'll be the old boys and girls out getting the snails, you know, picking the snails up. So I think it's frozen in time in many respects, in that there's these traditions and there's ways of doing things that will not change. You know, the fishermen bringing the fish in at the early hours of the morning, and the markets, and, you know, the restaurant owners going down purchasing the fish from their guy. I just think it's not changed for years, and it's not going to change. So I think it simplifies it.
Thank you for being on the podcast. This was a wonderful conversation.
Thank you for reaching out. I've really enjoyed it. It's lovely to talk in so much detail about a country that I love so much.
Wonderful. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Take good care.
So thank you once again to our guest, and thank you to all of you for listening. Please subscribe, share with your friends, give us a thumbs up, and please leave a comment or a review. We always love to hear from you. Don't forget, Portugal The Simple Life also has a magazine, so download it. It's for free. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode, and as we say in Portugal, sejas bem-vindo. Welcome to The Simple Life.